Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. It's a lovely Tuesday, and we really appreciate the fact that you have joined us on this particular broadcast. This is a special interview on Ubuntu channel, and I am your host this evening, Lance Sani Banda. And of course, I will be with my usual colleague, that is Chaza, to co-host, as well as our guest will be coming in shortly. Chaza, good evening. How are you doing today?
Good evening. Doing pretty fine. How are you doing yourself?
Well, not bad. It was a hectic, hot day.
Yeah, the day is getting hotter each time, and it's
Exactly.
summertime where we are right now.
Mhm. All right. So, to our viewers, we appreciate that you are a part of this broadcast. And in the quest of making sure that we get to exhaust different topics that we bring to you on this platform, this evening, instead of the debate, we bring to you yet another edition of a special interview, this time around dealing with the management of the Constituency Development Fund and prevention of corruption. Our guest this evening is none other than Nicolas Kapanda, who is a young professional or a young professionals network researcher or economist. Mr. Kapanda, welcome to the program. Good evening.
Good evening. Thank you, Lance. Good evening, Chaza. Thank you so much for having me here.
It's an honor to have you and also to have you in our midst. Now, to our viewers, you will be given chance to come through into the studio later on to be part of the program as we'll share the link with you on the comments box, either on Facebook or YouTube or whichever platform that you are watching us from, including Twitter. And as well as would like to hear from you. Therefore, leave a comment, share with us a view, express your comment, as well as just have something to say about our topic of discussion. Once again, management of the Constituency Development Fund and prevention of corruption. Now, let's quickly get to our guest before we get into the topic of discussion. Let's quickly get your short profile, Mr. Kapanda. At least let's have people understand exactly who you really are.
Okay. Ish, this is a very tough question to answer, but I've got no choice but to do it. So, my name is Nicolas Kapanda, and I am with the Young Professionals Network of Zambia. So, it's a newly formed network, as most of us were alumni of a competition that the Center for Trade Policy and Development hosted through last year coming into this year. And I happened to be one of the finalists in one of the competition, which is called the People's Budget. So what we did in the People's Budget is we had to give a highlight of what our expectation was in the 2022 national budget when being read last year by the Honorable Minister. So we came together and formed what is called now the Young Professionals Network. And we have certain fields in which we are able to conduct our research from and which we're able to, give out our information and our insight on certain key topics in Zambia. Away from that, I am a final year student at the University of Lusaka. I am trying to, this is me thinking now what else I actually get to do with my profile. But yeah, other than being a final year student, I also, well, do a number of things that ensure that I am as productive as can be. In this time and day we're living in, it's very easy to get distracted all around. And so I try to keep myself busy in the best way possible, best legal way possible together. So that's really pretty much a brief highlight of who I am.
All right. Thank you so much for that brief, detailed profile. And it's like I said, it's an honor to have you and definitely to have you among us and get to discuss this important topic that we are having today. Last year, the UPND government increased the CDF from 1.6 to 25.7 million kwacha. And this year, in the recently announced budget for 2023, we have seen another increment of 28.3 million kwacha. First of all, getting back to the previous one, the one which is currently working, the 25.7. In your analysis or in your gathering of information, At what percentage can you put the utilization of this same fund?
Okay, so just a brief background on what the CDF is and how we've gotten to where it is now. So the CDF basically, as everybody just would term it as CDF, CDF, not really know the whole essence of it. But the CDF is acronyms for the words Constituency Development Fund. Others might even go in and call it Community Development Fund. So this fund was basically established just to help constituencies develop the areas of where they are right now. So the government has given independence to MPs and people in these constituencies to decide what they want to do. That's how the decentralization of the management has happened. So moving forward, seeing that we have different constituencies all around the country, our levels of development are different. Our levels of certain community projects are different based off of the levels of where our communities are at. So it would really be difficult to say that we have used our CDF towards a certain percentage because everybody else is using it for their own particular reasons and really doing what works for them. I personally come from Lusaka Central constituency, and most of the money that is here has been going towards the people as compared to as compared to development that's supposed to be happening. Seeing the area I'm in and how developed it has been. Others might say it's not as developed, but I would say it's developed quite well. And so I see the percentage of that is being used to probably between 35 to 60% of our CDF is being used in Lusaka Central right now.
All right, pretty interesting. Now, I want us to deal with the same utilization of these funds before we get to how we should manage or the management of the whole fund, who is supposed to manage it. Reason why I would like us to start with 2022 before we venture into the now increased 2023. How do you think different constituencies have managed to utilize this fund despite having comments coming through from different constituencies where others are saying they have received, others are still denying that they haven't received these funds?
Okay, so I would just make a brief comment there to say that in other constituencies, some people don't know what the CDF is. Some people don't even know why the CDF exists. All right. So a lot of people would just be looking at it as some form of empowerment scheme, of which there is a certain section of empowerment, and then there's also a certain section that has to go into developing the entire community altogether. So now, when it comes to utilization, others have been able to access the CDF funds quite well, and then there's another set of people that have not been able to access it as well. So basically, the only explanation to that really would be the way the government is dispersing its funds. All right. So you find that at a certain moment, funds will be available to sort out some of the communities that are genuinely in need of it, whereas others are being put on hold just so that, but at the end of the day, they will be able to receive their CDF. And also government has given reports on several occasions to say that they have been able to release CDF in a certain number of constituencies altogether. But that doesn't mean that the other constituencies will not be able to collect. So meaning people who are in authorities will probably be under pressure to have to release those funds in order by the time it's 31st December, so that by 1st January, we get into our new allocation of the budget and or the CDF in the budget.
All right, pretty interesting there. Let's get to move on, coming to management. Since time immemorial, we have had complaints or comments coming through either from political players, church players, CSOs, as well as different organizations that take part into the governance of the country, saying that this CDF was not managed in a proper way because back then it was mostly accessed by MPs who misused it, and then now we have seen or we have heard different comments also coming through of how this current CDF is being managed. Let's look at the management overall. How should this CDF be managed? Who should be in charge and how should it go about?
Okay, all right. The question has got multiple parts added to it, basically ranging from who should be in charge, how should it be rolled out, and really what the insight was behind the whole CDF in general. So, back in the day, well, it's not something that we can all hide here. Those high levels of corruption, of where money would be released, and you really wouldn't know where it was going to go. And like I mentioned earlier, CDF is money that is given for the purpose of developing an entire constituency altogether. So what we really need, what was there now is that some people would see CDF work, some people would not see CDF work. Okay, and you see certain players such as the people, even the church and CSOs and NGOs come in just to ensure that CDF is being applied in the right possible ways. And so, they have the right to know where the money was going. And I'm sure it wasn't just one party that was coming to tell that money was being mismanaged or it was being mishandled and that they never saw it. You had those testimonies coming from different people altogether. So you are able to tell that it's a genuine fact. So now coming to, CDF now with what it is today, for the very first time in a long time in the history of our country, we are able to hear testimonies of people having received this, have been able to receive CDF. And CDF has also been cut out in certain parts as well. Okay, so I'll just touch on it briefly, and I'm sure it's something that we're going to get into after some time. So with the Constituency Development Fund, there's a certain section that has been put out for women and youth empowerment altogether. And then the rest of it has to go into developing other communities. So now what the government has done is they have literally decentralized the management of all of these things and brought the development closer to the people, to where now we are the ones who ought to decide what we need to do next or what has to be done in our constituency. So that certain section of where there's empowerment is the part that a lot of people constantly think about and constantly want to benefit from. All right. And so you find that when you talk about CDF, everyone is just talking about empowerment, but they're not talking about now on the community projects that are going to help sustain the community. Certain constituencies have gone as far, as being as simple as can be by drilling boreholes in communities, trying to buy, furniture for different schools altogether. It just basically depends on the constituency they're in. So now we move to the part of how CDF can be managed, all right? So like I said earlier, development has been brought closer to us as the citizens of a country. And through our constituencies, it's now easier for us to say, this is what should be done. So with regard to CDF, there's committees that sit to see which people are able to get CDF. So CDF, even on the empowerment side, will exist in two forms. And that's either the loans and that's either the empowerment, the grants that they're giving. So the application for loans just rolled out just recently, and then the grants arrangement has been there from the beginning of the year, that people have had to form cooperatives just so that they're able to receive this money and work on on development projects for themselves in order to see them become better. So now with regard to management for CDF, like I said before, we are the ones to manage it. All right, our MPs and council and councillors through our various wards are there to set up committees, and not just committees, and even have show transparency to how some of this money is going to be used, not only for the empowerment side but also for the community development part of things as well. What we want to see is communities thriving through the money that the government has given to us altogether. I think this is the best I can answer the question currently. I'll add on as we continue to go on.
Okay, thank you so much for that. Now, when we look at the format that has been put across, especially on one accessing these funds, complaints have come through, or complaints have come in to say the process is just way too long, and this new government only dealt with increasing the fund from 1.6 to 25.7, but they never touched on the process to see to it that this money get accessed easily or fastly, especially looking at how urgent maybe this project is needed in the constituency or in this particular area. can that also act as a barrier in this issue of management of this CDF?
Okay, all right. So what it is really is that I'm not gonna lie to you. I've also tried to access CDF before. The process is not long, but the guidelines are the ones that are quite long, because the guidelines, truth be told, I think a 95-page document was sent out as a guidelines for CDF. Now we must understand that, truth be told, not everyone in every constituency is able to understand some of the procedures that have been set there. And believe me, it's quite a disheartening process that you find that you're trying to apply, your application keeps getting denied because you are not meeting the requirements, or you can meet the requirements, but because we don't understand the guidelines with regard to CDF, that's how terrible it gets. So I find that even through that, it's led, it's dented the part of the people who are managing CDF, that they're really not letting people know how to apply for these funds altogether. And also at the same time, some funds will require that they're more on the time sensitive side. I'll give an example. If there's need for a proper drainage system, we're about to get into the rain season. You see, the government has disbursed funds into the constituency development fund to be able to do that. So you don't expect to see RATSA or the government itself coming to do that, because they have brought them down to us, and it's now us as a people to to attach the necessary I'm trying not to use the word pressure, but to continue to push for the entire thing to happen, for for certain time sensitive things to be done around. So really, even the guidelines for accessing some of these monies through CDF really need to be worked on. Okay, if it's possible, put them in an animation, put them on a magazine, let them fit into one page to say, oh, this is that's needed. So if it's 10 people, okay, 10 people need 10 RSCs, what did I say, proof of residence for the particular constituency as well, so that certain things are rolled out as quickly as they should be rolled out. So that has also contributed to CDF probably not looking like it's being managed as the way it should be managed.
Maybe I can just come in to find out, especially that you have undergone through that process. What is the application process? Because you've talked about the guidelines being too long. What about the process? Are you able to run us through as regards the requisites and the process itself?
Okay, so the process to firstly being able to access the CDF is in two parts. Okay, so like I said before, the CDF has been made a whole lot more because certain components have been cut out from some of these ministries and have been brought closer to us as a people. I'll give an example. The whole empowerment, the loans and the grants have moved away from the Ministry of Youth and Sport. They have now come down to us, to the CDF now. So you can still apply for certain funds from the Ministry of Youth and Sport, but now they've been brought closer to us now through our CDF. So CDF has got two parts. If you're applying for empowerment purposes, I'll deliberately say this and intentionally say it, for the empowerment part, that's for the youths and that's also for the women. And so that is the first one, the grants, and then the next one is the loans. I'll speak more on the grants because I'm unaware of the loans right now because the application has just been put out, but I'll also still touch it. So for the grants, what you need to do is to form a cooperative, first of all. A cooperative is only considered that when you have at minimum 10 people and can go to as many people possible within the particular community. And all of those people need to be residents in the particular community that you're applying from. Then after you have those 10 people, you roll out a list of them with support of their ID numbers, their NRCs altogether. So once you have that done, now you need to sit down together and decide a project that you're going to work on. Whether it's you're going to raise chickens, you're going to do anything, open a shop, open a barber shop altogether, it really doesn't matter. But for as long as it shows the ability for it to be able to generate income for that group. Then after that, you submit your business proposal, and you also submit the documentation of your NRCs and your certification of being a cooperative. You get certified by being you get your certification of being a cooperative from the Registrar of Societies, which is either at the Ministry of Home Affairs, or you can go to the National Youth Development Council, and that's where you get your certification from after paying a particular amount of money. I'm just too quite unaware of the amount of money that's paid for certification. After that, you now submit your proposal to the local council or to the ward office in your particular area, and then you would have to wait for feedback to come from them. That's as far as I have gone with regards to being able to access the grants. And so the grants go up to a maximum amount of 40,000 kwacha. That's the maximum they give. It's a grant. And being a grant, you don't have to pay it back. It's yours to start to generate money from. Then there's a side now of the loans. So now, for you to be able to access a loan, you need to show capability that you'd be able to pay it back. So now, since you're accessing one, it comes in that you'd have to be registered. Now is why you need a whole lot more registration, where you need to be registered with PACRA, you need to be registered with ZRA, you need to have a company bank account, you need to have a project that looks viable and shows very good returns on your numbers based off of how you're going to spend. So like I said, this application has been rolled out. I am yet to also push in an application for my personal business as well, which I'm hoping will definitely do get accepted. So that's as far as the procedures are with regard to accessing CDF.
So you've talked about two aspects, the grants and the loans. And in terms of application, you indicated that the grants are given to cooperatives. What about individuals? There are no circumstances that individuals would apply for a grant.
Okay, so in an attempt for transparency, for transparency to be the bigger picture here, it would really be unfair for one person to come and apply for a grant when there would be more people who are willing or who have better community projects that they would want to roll out. And so this is just to ensure that no one is left behind, that everybody can belong somewhere. Because what you can even do is, how you didn't, I'm going to say you didn't hear this from me, but unfortunately it's live. You could actually even apply for the grant itself. If you're the 10 of you, apply for the grant, each of you walk away with 4,000 kwacha. Then you all decide what you're going to do with your 4,000 kwacha. Or you could meet up, or you could, link with another one or two people who've also gotten their 4,000s, and you come and start your own project together, of which you are all going to head differently, just to ensure that you make your money from there. So for a grant, it would be unfair to just roll it out to an individual. And this is something that even international companies do as well. They will not give you money if you are an individual. You must belong to a certain group. Same thing, if you're going to supply another company, you can't do it as an individual. You need to belong to a certain group that should show capacity to be able to do some of these things. So the person, or the part where you come in as an individual would be where you get a loan. You choose to apply for a loan. And then also another aspect we never touched on with regard to CDF is things like bursaries for schools. You can apply for a bursary from your CDF. They will be able to sponsor you to school. And I'm sure this one has only been rolled out for government universities. So yeah, there's also that element. Maybe that's why you'd be able to benefit a whole lot more as an individual.
All right, thank you so much, Mr. Kapanda. I still believe, or I still want to come back to the processes of how maybe CDF comes out. Let's look at the process. So away from the grant and everything, we are looking at this project that probably we want to start. So first of all, it starts with the community. They sit down, decide what project they want to be worked on in this constituency. So if we are saying we are building a school, a 1x3 classroom block, then after that submission, we take it to the ward development committee. Ward development committee, they subject it to the constituency development committee, and then from there it goes to is it the technical team? If I'm not mistaken, it goes to the technical team. From the technical team, it goes to there's another branch that it goes to, and then it goes to the minister. From the minister, he sends it back to that team, which I have forgotten, which I still had my laptop here to look at the process. And then from there, it's also taken to another branch, which is it the planning branch? the planning where these have to approve. Okay, so yes, we can do this and that, and then it goes back to the trustee committee, and then so this whole process. Don't you think that this is too long? Like I don't know if let's say it's something like you gave an example of drainages. It's now that we can do drainages, not in rain season. Then you have this whole process. You have no idea when either of these team sitting in this process would sit to look at projects. And remember, it's not only one project they are looking at; it's different constituencies that are coming in, bringing these projects. Don't you think this is too long a process, and therefore management of these funds. In fact, we'll see mismanagement of these funds, and somehow, somewhere, corruption will come in. Kaidi, you want something isn't being done at the time that you want it.
Okay, so that's so funny thing is this, so with regard to constituencies, right? Each constituency has got a particular number of wards that are in that constituency. So I think for my constituency, there should be around 4 wards that are there, and now all of us need to have access to that amount of money. All right, I think Lusaka Central should be the biggest ward in the entire Lusaka district. So our area comes from as far as State Lodge, where Chifwema, somewhere there, going up all the way into town. Going all the way up to town, including Rhodes Park and all of these other areas along the way. So you find that in that same setup, there's wards there as well. So now, from the lowest point, right, you've got the wards now, and you've got the ward chairpersons and the ward development officers and all of these things, right? So the process, yes, is too long, but what you want to ensure is that the money still has to reach the people. Okay, you find the process is long, but also the execution time is also important. If the process is long and the execution time is okay, then the execution time is good, like where you are able to get full feedback by the time it's getting to the minister within 1 or 2 days and he sends it back, then that would be better. Or you roll out a certain time frame to say apply for all of these things now that we need to get done, and then only after that do we now does the minister now sit to look up them after probably a week or so, and then he sends them back there for either correction or rectification. But what I would really recommend is this: within a ward setup, and because the process is a bit too long, and like we had our conversation backstage, I said I would really just give more recommendations as compared to what the actual process is, because I believe the president hasn't yet signed the budget. So it is still in question here whether or not he's going to approve it and whatnot. So, and this is something that would be added going forward. With the local ward chair people that are there, let them be the ones to have access to the minister directly. Then the things that need to go through any technical committee should be the ones that the minister approves himself. So by the time he's approving it and it's going to the technical committee, from there it should come back to the people to be able to roll it out. And the minister just has to sign now to officiate that money should come out. So in the ward, you've got the development officers and the ward officers. I don't see a reason to have any other 2 or 3 offices in between the ward development office and the minister's office, because now that's really just taking up so much time. If you think about it, it's long, and then just by the thought of it, you even know yourself that it's going to take quite some time. So if we have everything from the ward part going directly to the minister, it's going to make the process a whole lot better, and it's going to encourage more community projects and more community development altogether. That's really my submission on this one.
All right. So now let's bring it in form of management. So from the minister, once an approval is done from him, it goes to the technical committee, the planning and everything. Then after all is done, it comes back again to the constituency development committee, the ward development committee. Then that's when it reaches the people. Don't you think that throughout this process, somehow, somewhere, there will be mismanagement? And what measures do you think should be put in place to see to it that there isn't any mismanagement, but at least proper management of these funds?
Okay. So with regard to these funds, again, it's really a conversation that's worth having with regard to how the funds are managed. Okay, and each and every one of us, deserve a report to how certain funds have been managed, a detailed report to say we've spent this much, we've given this much to this person, and all of these people are there to testify. First and foremost, my first recommendation is this: we need to have a third party that's going to be involved in ensuring that money is being dispersed correctly, and at every single point there is no trace of where money could have come out of the system. Okay, and that's the same thing if you're getting a loan, you're getting married, you are going to court. There's always a witness there who's able to access both sides of the story when any particular contract is being signed, right? And so now, in order to ensure, like the process I had recommended before, when the third party is there to see the transparency through all of these things, that the third party would be the one to be able to give a report to say, oh no, we are there and we testify that this happened. Even when you're writing an exam, after the answer scripts have been collected, there's always that one person to sign to say, oh, people have written and the answer scripts have gone. So if anything happens, that one person will come in and say, oh no, me actually signed here and this is what has happened. So a third party is necessary. And then on top of that, along the way, all right, so because you've written down a report of what's needed, if you're going to talk about a drainage system, what do? You bring in a company to do that, okay? And so now it should be the people who are going to bring in the company, and you need to ensure that you bring in quotations from, and this is what happens with companies, and this is how they ensure that money is not laundered. You bring in a quotation from probably 3 to 4 different companies that you have to choose from. Then from there, when you see the prices, you'll be able to tell which one has been tampered with because of the inflated costs that have been there for the person who's trying to push for it to happen. Okay, so what I would recommend is we have professionals do some of these things. Let's not have that one mechanic who we know down the other side to come and maintain vehicles with no certification, with no registration, I'm just giving an example. So if you're going to say we're constructing a drainage here, get yourself a construction company that you know is going to be able to deliver. All right. And even as you are doing that, get quotations from 3 to 4 different companies. And then the ward now gets to sit down and say, oh, we're going to use this company to do this. It might seem like it's a bit more corporate, but if that's the best way we're going to go through just to be able to manage our money, then I don't see anything wrong with it. And for as long as the people are benefiting from it as well, and that money is not leaving the system and it is going for what it has been intended for. If anyone wants to take out money from there, let them also apply for the funds just like the rest of us. It's as clear and as straightforward as that. So other than having other than having quotations come in as well, we reduce the process as well to ensure that, or we reduce the amount of processes in the system to ensure that they are not too long and for someone not to be able to see a loophole for them to be able to get money out. We don't need to have 5 different committees just to say we are building a classroom block. It's very, very unnecessary. And what we should ensure is that as the process is shorter, everybody else is able to see the transparency that is there. Just like that. And also on top of that, let's have testimonials from the people that have been able to receive these things. Okay. Once you testify that you've been able to receive, for me, it won't look like, it will probably show that, okay, these people really do care about us. And there's no other party that's involved in me having to either receive funding or to have a community project roll out. It becomes much easier for me to also want to also come in and even testify on your behalf. You know how information spreads through recommendation. If I see that you've benefited and you tell me there's no corruption, even for me when I'm going to apply and I'm also telling someone else the benefit, I also tell them, say, no, this guy got and there's no corruption. Even for me, I also want to apply just to see also the process as well and whatnot. So those are some of the basic and small things that we can do to ensure that there's no mismanagement of any funds at any point.
Well, since you have brought it in, let's get to delve into it. The issue of corruption. In accessing funds, we want to prevent corruption in accessing these constituency development funds. We want to prevent corruption. How does that happen? As you know, corruption is something that takes two to commit, the corrupter and the corruptee. Now, how do we prevent this from happening? People are so desperate to access these funds. As you know, currently we don't have liquid cash. Cash is scarce in circulation, and people are looking at CDF as the way to go if we have to have money in circulation. So they will do anything for them to access these funds or the loans or the grants or any project from CDF that will still give them money. How do we prevent corruption from happening?
Okay, so one thing I'm really just going to be honest and open to you about, coming from a company that's affiliated to the civil society organizations on debt restructuring and management. And I remember attending a summer school sometime last year, and one of the major issues was what we're looking at was corruption here in Africa. See, the type of politics that we have in Africa includes so much corruption, and there's simple reasons to greed, mismanagement of money as also one of the factors of corruption. And you see, really, corruption is what really pulls us down as people, because if we're supposed to be working towards a common good, if two people in that same setup are not for the idea, then really bites us in the back, and it takes us behind now to say that, oh, we're trying to make this place better, but then someone is not for the idea. It's like you deliberately want someone to fail. You see, corruption is like you having a bowl of 10 eggs, and one of those eggs is rotten, and it just comes in and just deflates the whole entire system altogether. So now corruption would happen in lines of where someone will tell you, oh, there's this going on, I'll help you with this, but you always have to remember me, you have to give me a small something. Okay, if the cost of helping someone, or if the charge to help someone comes at a cost, why should they help you in the initial phase? You're better off just going through the whole long process. It's a whole lot better, you get to learn a whole lot more, you get to become a better person, and your integrity is really on the line. More than anything, integrity is very, very important. Okay, so in order to stop corruption and in order to stop acts of corruption, like the previous question you've asked and some of the things that I've said, we really just need to ensure to say, look, if you're going to do some of these businesses, or if you want a particular company to do it, you deal with the company itself. Don't tell them to inflate prices and then tell them to give you the difference. Ask for a commission. Companies these days will give you a commission based off of the number of clientele that you've been able to bring for them. I'm just using this now from the last example that I gave to say that in order to cut down on corruption, like the way it is, imagine we're the three of us here, you, Chaza, and I, and we've got a company now altogether. Now imagine if we want to sign a deal, or we want to get a company to do it. I will go to a company and say, put the prices at this, and then I come back with a quotation first with inflated prices, and I'll tell the company to say any difference that is given, you're going to give it to me, of which becomes very unfair both to you and to the company as well. I might as well just go to the company and say, okay, are you able to just give me a commission, because this is the type of business I want to bring to you. If you've got 3 4 different quotations and you see the price difference, if they're within a particular range, then truly now you're going to know that, okay, corruption here has reduced. It's better off like that. Integrity is on the line as well. And so the process is there now, because you might have too many processes in the system. Certain people are going to see loopholes in those processes and say, okay, this is what we're going to come in from. By the time it's coming here, we can always tweak it and edit it a bit. Instead of saying we want a grant of 30,000, let's say we need a grant of 35 or 37,000. Then you start calling the owners of the project to say, oh, guys, me, I've arranged for this for you. When this amount of money comes in, give me this amount of money. It ends there. That's how we need to ensure. That's how we are going to see that corruption stops, based off of how we reduce the processes and ensure, again, there's a third party there, because the third party will come in and always speak for both parties, and they'll come in on a neutral ground. It's like the way you'd have a disciplinary committee um away from an actual business. So it's really just the small things that we need to look at that will ensure that even things like corruption have stopped. And in order for corruption to stop, it's really just the whole mindset. You need to show people different ways of how they would be able to make money for themselves. You receiving money off of a deal, really, you can translate it to say, let me get the commission from the people who are going to do it from me, instead of me having to tell them to inflate prices, then I come and get the difference. And now ZRA has been able to even come in on board to ensure that certain things like that are not happening, and all of us are being priced fairly altogether. So in order to stop corruption, we also need to start to work on mindsets. Some of the mindsets of the people that are there are because they saw the way people were crying for certain things, or the way people were operating in different ways. That's how they also want to operate. And really, like I said, it really breaks the whole system, that now you have to take away from it what was meant for good. Now it looks like it's something that's terrible. In the a few years ago, whenever you hear CDF, as we just used to hear about it, we hear about empowerment. No, we always had testimonials of people getting it, but we were never part of the people who were receiving it altogether. And now here we are in the light where now we can actually access this, and we can even see how certain things have changed. It's all the mindset. If the mindset of people is that that's the only way to make money, or that's the only way they'll be able to benefit, then really we need to transform that. That even now, when sensitization is going on for CDF, you need to put stern measures on those people who've either accessed it before or those who are in the positions of where they're able to give it out, to say, look, your job's on the line here. Anything funny happens, we are coming after you, and you are coming after you in a very brutal way, because you don't want someone to start charging people for CDF forms. You don't want someone to start charging people to help them with the process when there's people who've already been designated for that. No, it really doesn't work out like that. So even our mindsets need to change. When talking to people, you need to tell them, don't trust anyone, do the whole process yourself. It might be tedious, but you will learn something from it. That's why it's called a process. Everything goes through a process. In order for something to become good, there's a process there, and we should all be able to take that process altogether.
I'd like to find out one thing from you as regards, the same CDF. There are rumors that CDF is just talked about on media platforms, but practically on the ground is non-existent. And you're one of those people that attempted to apply and so on. Is really this CDF practical? Is it serving the purpose as intended right now?
Okay, so what I'll actually tell you, truth be told, is this. Like I said, a lot of processes with regard to the way the last government was running things have really been taken out, and they've been brought into the CDF part. And so I have seen testimonials of people who've been accepted with their to have their bursaries paid for. They've applied for bursaries, and CDF has worked around that for them. Okay, they've come through. So really, CDF is not something theoretical. It's not something on social media. Okay, number one, it really depends on where you choose to get your information from. Social media is one place with so much information, but you need to be able to filter out and decide what you want to listen to yourself as an individual. Okay, I've been into these council offices altogether, and I've actually even seen meetings going on with regard to CDF and how they're going to be able to disperse funds. And that's just to show that really it's not a myth, and this government means well for us. Okay, and so we need to also look at what type of CDF some people are trying to access, or what type of rumors are being spread out. You find that someone, the process does not appeal to them, they end up bringing out information that is not there. And all of us all have our own testimonials towards it, because the same testimonial I'll give to you is a different testimonial from someone else, depending on where they're coming from, what they want to do as well at the same time. Okay, seeing that it's CDF that you're applying for, even for you as an individual, you won't want to give out your money into a place where it's either going to be mismanaged, or you don't want to give it out to people who are not going to use it for what's going to be valuable. Okay, so if certain people might have been denied the opportunity, and then at the end of the day, all they're just saying that no, it's a myth, that it doesn't exist, that it's not there, basically because they've been denied the opportunity for them to either want to change their lives. Okay, certain people are there just to spread different stories altogether. Right? I'm speaking from my part because I have seen this thing before. I've seen certain people get bursaries before. I've seen money being rolled out for different community projects here altogether. And that's what keeps me optimistic about it. That the government of the day is being very much intentional with regard to the status of its citizens, wanting to show us that they care about us and they value us. And we are the ones who put them there, and that their services towards us and not towards themselves. So it number one, it really, you need to be able to filter out information and get it from the right sources. Okay, as money is being disbursed, certain communities might have not even been given money yet, even as much as they've been applied for, but that doesn't mean that they're not going to receive money. Okay, the president allowed for this to happen, and they're able to hold their leaders accountable based off of what the president has been able to do. All right, so all of us have the right to access it. If you think it's a myth, hold your leaders accountable. Go to the necessary people who you feel are going to be able to come in and change the situation for you, because it's there for us to benefit. If we are not the ones benefiting, then who else should benefit from it?
And you talked about qualification, as regards loans and also grants. What is your message, especially to the youths and the women, so that they do the right thing and be able to actually, access, these funds?
Okay. So what I'm going to start with saying is that, these funds are there to develop us, to help us become better people, to help us change our livelihoods. All right. And in as much as we are doing the most to access these funds, we also need to ensure that we're doing them in the right way. Okay. If it means you having to register a business, get your business registered. If it means you having to have your cooperative registered, get it registered. All right. follow the whole process. Don't allow anyone to come in and cut the process for you, because it's going to cost you at one particular point. It might either cost you having to pay them, or if something is not done right, should be found in the wrong space, right? These certain processes have been set there, and these measures have also been set there just so that all of us can benefit, and benefit in the right way. Already some people, when they see an entire process of what they have to do, for them it already eliminates them. It's, it shatters their, their enthusiasm towards wanting to roll out something. But my advice is that, as a young person who is very optimistic about, living in a better Zambia, just do everything the right way. Follow whatever guidelines have been set out. It will not hurt you. It will not, nothing is going to happen to you. Nothing will happen to your project. Nothing will happen to your business. It's your business. It's your project. Just ensure, if the guidelines say have a company registered, have a cooperative, it might take time. It might take a cost. But for as long as you know you're going to benefit from it at the end of the day, just run through the entire process. No one should come and cheat you out of going through the whole process because they probably want to make a quick buck or something. So to all the young people who are out there listening and watching this, please do go through the right way. All right, those guidelines have been set for a reason, and in fact, if anything, they'll even help you more than you think about going out through the process or even taking a shortcut. Not every shortcut is a shortcut, right? So you don't want to find yourself on the wrong side or being denied and now spreading rumors to say that it doesn't exist, or they're not favoring you, or CDF is for people for who know how to read to understand these things. It's really not going to work out like that.
All right, Nicholas, what lessons do we draw from the past and the present way of, disposing of CDF and the way it's working? What recommendations then do you have from the lessons from the past, recommendations for the forthcoming one for 2023?
Okay. So, with the way it was rolled out in the past, CDF was only around 1.6 million kwacha, which was for the same small community projects altogether. But now everything else has been put out and has been brought closer to us as people in our communities. Bursaries, empowerment schemes, community projects, and whatnot. So that was where now, because they're only focusing on community projects, it was much easier to take out money. You go to a contractor and say, okay, look, how much can you give me? Okay, okay, put this price, then you do this, and then it's like people really, it came out like, they were not really concerned with our livelihood. All right, you'd be celebrating someone who's basically who's supposed to do the responsibility. You're celebrating them for doing the responsibility. It's like you clapping for a father in a household for buying bread or for paying his children's school fees and applauding him like a king, when basically that's his responsibility. There's nothing supernatural is done except just recognize responsibility. So going forward, what I would really want to see, number one, is a shorter process for application. Not everybody is going to be able to understand. Proper dissemination of information with regard to CDF. What are the parameters with regard to CDF? Okay. Where the communities that we want to get into should be the ones to come out with projects. All right. You say, we all say the government this, the government that, but at the end of the day, who is the government? It's us as the people. We are the ones who have capacity to decide what should happen next, all right, for our communities and the development that we want to see. We ought to be the change that we want to see. So even, my opinion would go a certain way. Someone else will have to come with an opinion and say, this is what should be done. We put our heads together and say, this is the benefit that we want, all right? Things like corruption are only going to take us back. Okay, we have decided that this is the road we want to take as a country, which is better, which is good. We've got no problem with it. But we need to ensure that at every point, even our mindsets are ready to go to some of those places in the country. Those places, rather, to go to the places where we want to see our country. We need to prepare our mindsets for some of these things. Okay, you can't have $1 million with 1,000 kwacha mindset. It's not it's different. You will not get there, believe you me. So we need to change our mindsets altogether. The people who are in positions of where they're able to disperse these funds, should understand that it's for the greater good of the community, not to fatten their pockets. They need to get rid, if they're any at all, they need to get rid of that greed. Because if the community wins, they also win. They benefit as well from it in different ways altogether. We want to lift the livelihood of our country, and if we can't start to put in things in the system that are going to, tarnish the name of where we want to get to altogether. So what we really just need to ensure is that, number one, our mindsets are worked on. And then we also need to see that our processes are reduced, and we need to ensure that this information is disseminated to people who are in the position of where that they can't read a 90-page document or a 30-page document, but you put it in a magazine or like a whole one page, like a whole concept note to say, oh, this is what you need, do this, do that, do this, do that, do that, and come and apply, and you have your money ready. And the government should also give us, or those who are able to, should give us time frames of how we should be able to expect these things, so that now it doesn't look like now we are, we're trying to, we're calling them in for a loan now. It shouldn't look like that, now we're pressuring them unnecessarily altogether. So those are really my recommendations, that I'll go through them just again. The number one, the process is reduced. Number two, our mindsets need to be ready for some of the measures that we want to take. And also, you know the last one, I just lost my line of thought there. So, yes, those are some of the basic things that we really just need to get with regards to CDF.
All right. Let me take you back to the prevention of corruption. Though I think I've heard you've mentioned one, which might be a solution to preventing corruption happening in the accessing or managing of CDF funds there. Two questions or two issues. One, the process seems to be too long. That is a serious conduit of corruption, because, like you mentioned, it would be easy for somebody to come and say, hey, it's too long, I can help you at least zibwere fast, especially if you are in a hurry to want to receive funds. How do we make sure that corruption there does not happen? Then the second issue, don't you think that also the fact that government is distributing or disbursing these funds in patches also might bring about corruption? How do we prevent that corruption from happening? Should government be giving us, let's say, the whole 25.7 million but basi natuchepa kuyamba kwaye then tisokolola chabe, at least maybe that will prevent corruption. What's the best way?
Okay, so at the first question you asked, the most important thing is sensitization. You need to ensure that as you are telling people that CDF is there, you need to tell them to say that, look, there will be people who want to come and cheat you through the process or want to help push it for you. Avoid those people at all costs. Because it's, number one, even if someone trying to push for you, they might not be able to complete a particular process, and you'll find yourself in the wanting phase. And at the same time, like I said, not all shortcuts are shortcuts. You find yourself being at the side of where you've applied for 40,000, you're only getting 25,000, right? Because the person has taken money and is gone away. And believe you me, you will not see that person ever again. So, sensitization has to be done at the initial phase to say, look, follow the whole process. And that's why we're talking about now having to bring about information that even the one person who's never been to school but wants to access this money should be able to understand altogether. It makes that easier. And then now also on the other part, disbursing money, all of it all at once. I won't lie to you, 25 million times the number of constituencies we have, drama and zambilis. The government might not have that money at that particular time. And, just like any other, even we bring it down to the micro level, we all have to prepare for some of these things. It's difficult to just say, oh, 25 million here, 25 million here, 25 million here. So that's why there's time frames of certain things to be, that people apply for. If you've applied for a bursary, you give them ample time to for money to roll in, and it comes directly to you. There's lists of, of what has to be, or priority lists that have to be, that have to be fulfilled altogether. So you'd find that because the budget has been approved now, the only time cash might only be available is at the end of the first quarter. So all the projects of those who applied in the first quarter should be fulfilled by March. Some that are not able to be fulfilled can be pushed into the next quarter, just like that. And it's through basic communication. We're all humans who understand that people who are managing the government are also human beings. All of us are going to understand altogether. So really, having to throw in all of that 25 million per constituency, that one is a myth. It can't happen at all because the government doesn't have that much money to actually give to all of its people all at once. That's why it's being rolled out in patches. And that's why, like, if you remember, I always brought out the aspect of having, a third party, an independent party now, to be able to do checks and balances and hold them accountable to say, oh, this is what you said should happen, or this is what you promised for us to happen. So now what's happening, why aren't these things moving like this, and we hold them accountable. All right, while you've got people watching and you've got people being held accountable, things are going to move properly because no one is going to want to be caught in the side that's wanting. So altogether, those are some of the recommendations. There's no rocket science to it, no explanation that needs any mathematics or numbers. It's just simple communication. What we need to be done should be done when it can be done. The government should also be able to communicate to us and keep its word. More importantly, keep its word. The integrity of the government is also important, and they want to do everything to protect it so that they get another term. And it's through the things like this. We are the ones who have the capacity to either take them out or put them back, as we saw in the elections last year. So that's just my 2 cents on it.
All right. Thank you so much for that and for being elaborative. Let's get to see if we have messages that have come through. IT, do we have messages? If yes, can we have them come through on the screen and see if there's uh, any concern that needs to be attended to? If not, Mr. Kapanda would really like to thank you so much for your time. You've been elaborative and you've been very helpful. Really, we'll be looking to inviting you again as we discuss different things and different issues that affect the Zambian people or that affect the general citizenry that the general citizenry that is Zambians. Thank you so much, Mr. Kapanda. Do not close your doors.
Not a problem. I will be more than happy to come through again and share my 2 cents on any topic in my capacity.
Thank you
And
so much.
just before you go, Mr. Kapanda, I know that sometimes you may be looking forward to be given that opportunity for you to actually say out something that is away from the questions from the host. We give you an opportunity to give us a summary in 2 minutes as we get to close.
Okay, all right. So, to everybody who is watching, some of the things that one of the things that I would really say is that our country is ours to develop. Okay, away from the whole corruption thing, just let's look at it as we're just having a conversation. Our country is really ours to develop, and we need to get to a certain level of where now we are putting our development first before anything else. Before us even benefiting. All right, people paved way for us to have the Zambia we have now. And it doesn't just end there. We also need to pave way for those who are coming in after us. We ought to be the change we want to see. And, we, especially as the young people, all right, but when I say young people, I don't mean with age. I mean those that are young at heart, those that are vibrant, those that want to see the better for our country. We are the ones who are determining the kind of Zambia that's going to exist in the year 2035, in the year 2045. What is it that we want to do with regards to that? How is it that we are going to ensure that that's the role that we are playing? All right, there's so much opportunity now. We're living in an informed world. There's so much opportunity for us to choose to be better people, better citizens of our country, and we need to start to work towards that. Like, we don't need any rocket science there. All we just need to do is just join hands and think about the best way possible for young people. The government is not going to come up with all the ideas that are going to help Zambia better. That's a lie. They will not come up with everything. We'll continue saying and standing from a distance, saying, no, the government is not doing what it should do. But yet it's opened up its doors now for us to be able to go in and make recommendations, and they'll be ready to listen to us. That's something that I value about this government. I've had certain meetings with different ministers altogether, and some of the conversations I've had with some of the things that are happening now, these are things that I've seen that I might not have suggested, but we passed through it in a conversation, and now it's happening, and now it's being effective. More than anything, the president wants to see us doing better, and he's going above and beyond, in his capacity to ensure that Zambia is put on the map based off of what we're able to do. So to every other Zambian that is there, we have our own role to play in ensuring the Zambia that we want to see. We would not have anyone else to blame. We can't point fingers but ourselves. You say the government, ask yourself, who is the government? It's you and I. We are the ones who voted for the people managing the government, not the government itself. We've got managers and not the government because we are the government. So let's ensure that we work hard together, work smart, and ensure that our Zambia is a better place. Thank you so much.
All right, Nicolas, we greatly appreciate. We are profoundly humbled and highly indebted to you. And just like my co-host Lance indicated, we shall definitely call on you. Do not shut that door, behind us. We are so grateful.
No, you are most welcome. Anytime I will be ready to call. If you need other people as well to have a panel discussion with, I have a network of younger people as well who are also passionate about seeing our Zambia become better. So you can always just let me know and we can begin to work towards that.
Thank you so much, and not forgetting, the viewers out there, the listeners. We greatly appreciate. Just like any other day, you spend your time to join us on our Ubuntu channel, and tonight on a special interview. We do appreciate. Till next time. Tomorrow we do have, another interview right here on our Meet Your Leaders Ubuntu channel. Make a date with us, 9 p.m. as usual. Till then, from Lance and myself, not forgetting our guest, Nicolas, we are saying God bless you all.